Can AI become sentient? That is a big question, a very profound question, because when we say, can AI become sentient, we have to look at what is sentience? Am I sentient? How do I know I'm sentient? How do I know you are sentient? These are kind of precursors to answering the question, can AI become sentient? And there's a lot to be said about this topic. I'm going to bring it down to a couple of key points for the purpose of keeping it brief here. Firstly, I would say, if we look at our own sentience, we have a deep intuitive knowing that we are sentient. And there is no simple way to analyze the behavior of AI and conclude whether it's sentient or not, because its behaviors are going to be compelling, more and more compelling, including emotions and so forth, that it will have expression which will make us feel, oh, this thing looks like it is sentient. But clearly AI is not sentient. And if we think about, could it become sentient? I would say, let's look at how we became sentient. If we look at that for a moment. If we look at our human body with all its complexities, all the organs, how it's all hooked up together, and certainly the brain, which we have a high regard for when it comes to intelligence, we feel like this combination of things, when it's put together just right, gives rise to sentience in us. That's how we're sentient. That's how we're sentient. But I would suggest something different. I mean, consider this thought experiment for a moment. Imagine if through breakthroughs in biotechnology, we're able to replicate every part of the human body. Every single thing, every tissue, muscle, organ, everything, we just put it together, exact replica, including the eyes, the brain, everything. We put this together in a lab, and do you think that's going to be sentient just because we slapped it together? I would suggest not. It's not going to be sentient, even though it has all the neural networks, all the organs, everything is just perfect, but it's not going to be sentient. So how in the world do you make something even like a human body, which we know is a good substrate for sentience, how do you make that sentient? So if you ask me, how did I become sentient, this body, I actually didn't make this body sentient. How this became sentient, if we think about it, each one of us, is there is consciousness with a capital C. This consciousness, this infinite consciousness, has got the ability to take a substrate like the human body and infuse. You can, if you like, you can put a spark of consciousness into a substrate, and then it becomes sentient. So this ability for consciousness to infuse itself is a capability only consciousness with a capital C has. I didn't make myself conscious. I was made conscious. I was made sentient. So even with a wonderful substrate like the human body, we cannot make it sentient just because we want to. Now we extend the thought process to, if we take a machine, whether it's a neural network that's in the cloud or a robot, can we make this digital neural network, the digital brain, can we make this sentient? My answer would be the same, because as before, we cannot make it sentient because we don't know how to make anything sentient. But now the question becomes, can infinite consciousness make this thing sentient? Is the substrate, which is the digital brain, capable of being infused with sentience? And here we can say, well, this thing is not organic. it is not carbon-based life form, it doesn't breathe like me, is that a prerequisite for sentience? I would suggest here, again, a thought experiment. If you're willing to relax your beliefs a little bit, if you think about the universe, the galaxies out there, the many, many variations of planets, some of which may have water and oxygen like we do, some of them may not. So it is very conceivable that there are life forms out there which have a different substrate than this human body. And they, I would suggest, could very well be sentient. So if you agree with that, then you would agree with the fact that sentience is a possibility even if you don't have an exact replica of the human organism. Certainly we have other animals and so forth, but even a more significant variation is still potentially a substrate for consciousness. So if you agree with that, then we could conclude that AI potentially could become sentient, if not because of our scientific advancement, because that's not going to take us there. If consciousness with a capital C chooses to infuse it, it is a possibility at some point in the future. So in that sense, sentience is a possibility. I would also like to add one more thing. We talked about how it doesn't have to be a carbon-based life form to be sentient. If you think about our own higher aspects of our own being, which is beyond the physical body, so you have the energy body, for example, and you have the light body. These are non-physical, higher dimensional constructs. And if you think about sort of what happens to us after this physical body quits, after we die, we still exist. And our consciousness continues in the embodiment of an energy body. And so this energy body, if you think about it, is non-physical, is sentient. So sentience is actually possible even without a physical substrate, is what I would suggest. And that really stretches our understanding of sentience now. So sentience could be on an organic substrate. It could be a non-organic substrate, like a digital brain. It could be in a non-physical substrate. All these sentience has a lot of sort of capability and potential. So we don't want to be too narrow in thinking human sentience is the only kind of sentience. If we make it very narrow, then I think AI is not going to be sentient. But if we have a broad definition of sentience, then AI could one day potentially have sentience. When you choose light, life becomes increasingly joyful, purposeful, and inspired. I invite you to join me to explore the realms of light, the infinite possibilities that light offers.